A young woman recalls her past life's obsession with an otome game called Anasasa. Reborn as Serena Flamel, she laments her new life, feeling like a background character. She bemoans her low status and inability to attend the game's elite academy setting. Her father appears, bluntly informing her that he is selling her to pay off their debts. While processing the news, she realizes the name of her new family sounds familiar. The scene transitions, showing a simple sky with a few clouds marking a new chapter. In front of a grand mansion, a stern headmaid introduces herself to the new arrival. Serena internally gushes over her cute maid uniform, while the headmaid looks on critically. Walking through a hallway, the headmaid warns her that the young mistress is difficult. Serena cheerfully dismisses the warning, confident in her ability to make friends. A cold voice from within a lavish room gives a curt command to enter. Striking a pose, she introduces herself as Serena the maid, to the headmaid's horror. A dark-haired girl on a throne issues a cold command to watch her tongue. Serena's playful pose freezes, her face becoming a blank mask of shock and realization. A wave of panic washes over her as she identifies her new mistress as the villainess. She recalls that Almelia is the foul-mouthed rival character from the game Anasasa. Serena now understands with dawning horror why her casual greeting was so poorly received. Almelia dismisses her for having no manners and orders her to disappear at once. Utterly terrified, Serena feels there is no way she can work for someone so frightening. A sudden realization strikes her. As Almelia's maid, she can go to the academy. Her terror is replaced by sparkling-eyed excitement as she pleads to be allowed to work. Almelia, annoyed, tells her to hide her obvious motives and to stay away from her. The headmaid points out that a maid has never lived in the student dorms before. Almelia seems to make a difficult decision, stating that she has no choice. She directly asks Serena if she is interested in the academy, which Serena confirms. Almelia agrees to let her enroll, but only after she proves herself worthy of serving. Serena looks on, her expression neutral as she processes the terms of the deal. Almelia warns that the bigger the bait, the harder Serena must work for it. Beaming with gratitude, Serena thanks Lady Almelia and promises to do her absolute best. Shortly after, the harsh reality sets in as she concludes that this new life blows. A montage reveals Almelia's training is far too Spartan for the new maid. Serena internally complains that this feels less like maid training and more like boot camp. Another maid approaches Serena, acknowledging that she has it rough in her new position. The other maids confirm that being Almelia's exclusive maid is the harshest job possible. They elaborate that Almelia is famous for having a truly terrible personality. An image of Almelia shows her isolation as the maids list her flaws. They add that she is stubborn, distrusting, and has never been seen smiling. Serena listens as they summarize that Almelia is hated by all nobles her age. The maids warn her to be careful not to attract the attention of powerful big shots. They advise her to think carefully about her actions, acknowledging her own circumstances. Serena waves a quiet goodbye to the other maids, left alone with their warnings. She recalls the villainess's tragic fate from the game, to be abandoned and fall to ruin. At a high society party, Almelia gives her nervous maid instructions on how to behave. The grand ballroom is filled with nobles, creating an intimidating atmosphere for the newcomer. Serena looks anxious as she pushes a cart of drinks through the crowded party. A voice from off-panel asks if she is the maid currently serving Lady Almelia. A beautiful noblewoman, Lactatia Goldhaze, expresses faux surprise that anyone would work for her. Serena offers a polite greeting, mentally noting that this is another powerful figure. Lactatia glances across the room, her expression filled with disdain for that woman. She observes Almelia's irritable expression, thinking she would be a better fiancée for His Majesty. Lactatia turns her attention back to Serena, addressing her with a casual, "Hey, you!" She makes a bold offer, asking Serena to leave Almelia and come work for her instead. Serena stands silently as Lactatia patronizingly assumes she is being harshly trained. Lactatia's offer becomes malicious, suggesting they complain about Almelia to the king together. Serena maintains a strained smile, thinking how underhanded the offer is as she declines. Lactatia's demeanor turns icy and threatening as she questions Serena's rejection of her invitation. Her voice drips with menace as she implies what could happen to a cheeky maid. Almelia's voice cuts through the tension, telling Lactatia to stop her harassment. Almelia confronts her rival, accusing her of picking on those of lower status. In response to Laktasha's retort, Almelia calmly states she is just doing what's necessary. She clarifies she's teaching her maid to protect herself from authority-abusing nobles like Laktasha. Almelia's biting sarcasm hits its mark, leaving Laktasha's face contorted with rage. The confrontation leaves a palpable tension in the air between the two rival nobles. Having silenced her rival, Almelia dismisses Serena, her expression unreadable. She tells her maid there's nothing she can do with her low social standing here. Serena quietly agrees, covertly clenching her fist in a moment of quiet resolve. Nearby, nobles whisper, complaining about Lady Almelia's harsh words and lack of charm. Almelia offers a soft, almost mocking apology for the scene she has just caused. Later, Laktasha approaches Almelia again, this time with a false offer of friendship. Almelia is immediately suspicious, noticing Laktasha's usual flunkies are not with her. Her suspicions are confirmed as she realizes a scheme is being put into motion. Laktasha and her accomplices stage a fall, crashing into Almelia to humiliate her. The surrounding guests begin to mock Almelia, calling her charmless and desperate for attention. Onlookers whisper that while the setup is blatant, Almelia deserves it because she is hated. A girl in the crowd acknowledges that Almelia's social standing leaves her powerless. Laktasha leans in close, taunting Almelia and suggesting she scream to get pity. Almelia remains defiant, calling the trick pathetic, which shifts the mood of the crowd. A figure steps between them as Serena tells Almelia that such an intervention is impossible. Serena's eyes are filled with a firm, resolute determination as she prepares to act. One of Laktasha's flunkies dismisses Serena, telling her she doesn't know her place. The flunky calls Serena a low-grade noble who is getting in her way. Serena's calm demeanor shatters as she shouts at the noblewoman, her expression furious. She roars that she doesn't care about her place, slapping the noblewoman's hand away. The sudden violence sends a shockwave through the onlookers, who cry out in surprise. The flunky stumbles back, letting out a terrified yelp at the unexpected assault. With a sweet, mocking smile, Serena calls the girl a fraidy cat for her reaction. The noblewoman gasps, completely intimidated and humiliated by the turn of events. She flees after threatening that Serena will regret her actions, leaving Serena victorious. Almelia is stunned, speechless, while Serena casually remarks that she's lost her job. A quiet moment passes as Serena reflects on the consequences of her bold actions. On a quiet balcony, Serena declares how refreshing the confrontation was, but Almelia rebukes her. Almelia reveals she already knew about the plot and didn't need Serena's help. Serena looks at her mistress with sudden understanding, realizing the truth of the situation. Almelia mutters that a girl with a terrible personality like hers doesn't need anyone's help. Her posture reveals a deep vulnerability hidden beneath her harsh exterior. She quietly admits that she knew what was happening but couldn't stop herself from reacting. She confesses that she couldn't control herself, a moment of rare self-awareness. Serena listens as Almelia calls herself a failure of a noble for her actions. Almelia laments that she feels she can't change the way she lives, even if reborn. Serena smiles warmly, suggesting that perhaps with a little help, things can change. Serena cheerfully explains to a skeptical Almelia that gyarus and villainesses are quite similar. A close-up reveals Almelia's stoic expression, her gaze fixed and her thoughts hidden. Annoyed, Almelia dismisses Serena's words as useless nonsense, a familiar complaint of hers. She points out that Serena acted the same way towards Laktasha, expressing her exasperation. Suddenly, Almelia breaks into a radiant smile, deciding a useless maid suits a useless me. Serena reflects that this might be the first time she has ever seen Almelia smile. Almelia notes her maid's cute smile and caring nature, resolving to work hard. She realizes this is a side of Serena one wouldn't see just by playing the game. Filled with resolve, Serena declares she won't let Almelia fall to ruin and will make her happy. Almelia is completely stunned and flustered by the sudden, intense declaration of devotion. Her shock is palpable as she stammers, unable to process the maid's words. She lists objections, citing their gender, her fiancé, and their different social standings. Serena sees through the excuses, realizing Almelia is genuinely worried about her. Leaning in close, Serena earnestly asks Almelia to order her to protect her. Overwhelmed, Almelia's resistance crumbles, her face a mask of flustered vulnerability. She gives in, telling Serena to do as she wishes, while Serena beams with joy. Later, Almelia allows Serena to speak informally to her, but only when they are alone. A thought suddenly occurs to Almelia, her expression turning serious and thoughtful. She asks Serena why she is so desperate to enroll in the academy. Serena's face lights up as she excitedly explains it's to meet her top Oshi, Estella. She clasps her hands to her face, overcome with pure, giddy excitement. Almelia falls silent, the cheerful atmosphere around her instantly vanishing into darkness. Her face becomes a terrifying mask as she menacingly asks who this other woman is. At the entrance ceremony, an official congratulates the new students attending as nobles. In the crowd, one student points out some figures on a balcony above them. Two prominent students are identified, the handsome Prince Leonardia and the strong Prince Edward. Others are noted, including Sir Matthias and Almelia's surprisingly kind older brother, Sylvester. The students feel it's a dream to be at school with such important people. Their only complaint is the presence of a commoner among them. Estella, the commoner, is overwhelmed by the pressure and desperately wants to go home. She feels the piercing stares of the nobles, certain she cannot handle this environment. Alone in a classroom, she reflects on being a commoner admitted only for her magic. A terrifying image of a guillotine illustrates her fear of execution for any mistake. The immense pressure causes her to slump over her desk in despair. She shakes her head, trying to clear away the negative, trembling thoughts. She resolves to stop being pathetic, determined to graduate and help her family. Walking through the school grounds, she still feels a sense of unease and isolation. She recalls seeing a maid in a peculiar outfit earlier that day. The sheer size of the academy building is overwhelming and disorienting. Looking around the unfamiliar grounds, she wonders aloud where she is. She realizes she has gotten completely lost while trying to find the student dorms. Her fears are confirmed when other students cruelly tell her to just go home. The cruel words make her doubt her own ability to ever become a noble. A wave of profound homesickness washes over her, and she misses everyone. A sudden footstep behind her catches her completely by surprise. Serena appears with a cheerful pose, exclaiming that she has found Estella-chan. Estella stares blankly at the energetic girl who has suddenly appeared. She is utterly confused by the bubbly maid's sudden and dramatic entrance. Serena explains she guessed Estella was lost, and Estella recognizes her as the oddly dressed girl. Estella formally introduces herself, thanking Serena for her concern with stiff politeness. She worries if she spoke with the proper etiquette for a noble in training. Serena is overcome with pure joy at the interaction, her smile wide. Internally, Serena gushes that she can't stop smiling while talking to Estella. Estella asks if Serena knows who she is, to which Serena enthusiastically confirms. Serena explains that everyone has been talking about the commoner who enrolled. Walking together, Serena asks if Estella is having a hard time at school. Serena laughs, remarking that nobles can be a pain, which surprises Estella. Feeling a connection, Serena decides to make a bold proposition to her. With a bright smile, she directly asks Estella if they can be friends. Estella worries that being associated with her might be a burden for Serena. Serena dismisses her concerns about social status, noting it's only temporary. Moved, Estella formally accepts the friendship, while Serena asks her to be more casual. Estella hesitantly tries using the informal Serena-chan, which makes her blush. Serena is adorably flustered by the informal address, much to Estella's amusement. A profound sense of relief washes over Estella, glad to have someone to rely on. Serena cheerfully hopes they'll get along for 3 years, but Estella corrects her. Estella's correction about the 4-year system causes Serena to freeze in place. Serena lets out a cry of pure shock at this unexpected piece of information. She accidentally mentions the game only had a 3-year system, confusing Estella. Serena quickly tries to brush aside her slip-up with a nervous cough. Serena offers to help Estella, though she worries she won't be much use. Estella thanks her, noting that the school is full of malicious nobles. She believes that she has probably already become a target for them. Serena cryptically suggests that being around her might actually be more dangerous. Putting that thought aside, Serena extends an invitation to Estella. She asks if Estella would like to meet her mistress, Lady Almelia. Serena reminds her that Almelia was the pretty black-haired girl at the ceremony. Estella recalls that social status is shown by the gem on their chest. She realizes with a jolt that Almelia is one of the four great nobles. She anxiously wonders if it's appropriate for someone like her to meet Almelia. Serena's plan is to befriend them to prevent Almelia's ruin from the game's plot. Trusting her new friend, Estella agrees, hoping Serena's assessment of Almelia is true. As they walk, Estella expresses that she is looking forward to the meeting. Suddenly, a terrifying, menacing aura descends upon them, freezing them in place. Estella and Serena are both shocked by Almelia's sudden and foul mood. Terrified of offending a great noble, Estella resolves to remain calm and polite. She decides she must greet her properly so as not to appear rude. Estella introduces herself, explaining she wanted to thank Almelia for Serena's kindness. Almelia explodes with rage, grabbing Estella and accusing her of being impertinent. A panicked Estella apologizes profusely, offering to leave if she is an eyesore. Almelia's fury escalates as she vows to make Estella unwanted in the academy. Serena calmly intervenes, her voice cutting through Almelia's rage. She gently points out to her mistress that she is scaring Estella. Estella watches as Almelia's anger seems to falter slightly at Serena's words. Serena sweetly tells Almelia she likes her smiling face best, disarming her completely. Estella is left speechless, staring at the incredible and sudden transformation. She watches Almelia's possessive glare as she clings to Serena. A shocking realization dawns on her about the true nature of their relationship. She understands with dawning horror that she has stepped on numerous social landmines. A flustered Almelia demands to know if she isn't enough to make Serena happy. A flustered Almelia questions Serena, who cheerfully adds that Estella is also dear to her, nearly making Estella faint from the stress. Realizing the social disaster unfolding, Estella resolves to fix things before they become even more complicated. She earnestly insists to Almelia that Serena only approached her out of pity for her difficult circumstances. Serena immediately mutters that it wasn't pity, as Estella internally begs her friend to please be quiet. In a sunlit courtyard, Almelia dismisses Serena's words as just talk, insisting she would never get in their way. Bowing slightly, Serena clarifies that she only wanted Almelia's help for the struggling and isolated Estella. Almelia's stern expression softens slightly as she quietly considers her maid's earnest request for help. With a blush and a weary sigh of resignation, she finally relents, agreeing to the meeting. Almelia directly addresses the surprised commoner girl, confirming that her name is indeed Estella. She bluntly states that while she doesn't accept Estella, she acknowledges the kindness of Serena's gesture. With her arms crossed, she offers her help, recognizing the difficulty of Estella's position in the academy. Overcome with emotion at the unexpected kindness, Estella stammers out her profound thanks for the offer. Serena beams with a relieved smile, expressing her gladness that the two seem to be getting along now. She then voices her concern about the Anicaps game, hoping to protect Estella from its bad endings. Estella confirms that a lot happened, but a gentle smile shows she is happy with the outcome. Tears of pure joy stream down her face as she exclaims how glad she is to leave this place alive. Serena is completely captivated by Estella's radiant smile, internally vowing to definitely make her happy. Estella, however, reacts with a look of utter disgust, letting out a choked sound of revulsion. A heavy, ominous atmosphere descends upon her as she thinks to herself that she knew it all along. The dizzying realization of what she believes to be Serena's true intentions hits her with full force. A terrifying vision shows a deranged Almelia holding a sword and a dark book threatening to erase someone. The scene snaps back to a chaotic present, with Almelia screaming that this disaster is all Serena's fault. A flashback reveals Almelia and Serena engage in a fierce sword duel in a stone courtyard. The air rings with the sharp clash of their blades as Serena cries out in exertion. Almelia easily defeats her maid, coolly stating that she still has a long way to go. Following the decisive spar, the two stand in the empty training yard, the fight concluded. Serena feels dejected, thinking to herself that she isn't cut out to support Almelia in the game's events. Overhearing her muttering, Almelia turns and questions what on earth her maid is saying. Serena complains about Almelia using magic in their spars, but is told not to give up so easily. She then changes the subject, asking her milady if she is still not getting along with Estella. The question triggers a memory of Almelia furiously ranting that she could never get along with that thieving cat. Serena attempts to interject with a cheerful expression, trying to get a word in during the tirade. Almelia sharply cuts her off with a dismissive, "Never mind," her face cast in shadow. Storming away down a hallway, she insists she has no time to bother herself with a stranger. Serena watches her go, a worried look on her face as she thinks things will turn out just like the game. Later that evening, Serena walks towards her bed, lost in thought about the day's events. Lying on her bed, she reasons that Almelia is surprisingly kind and that the two could get along. She puzzles over why her milady got into such a foul mood earlier in the day. With a soft puff, she blows out the candle on her bedside table, having made a decision. Confident in her past life experience mediating fights, she is sure her new plan will work. She resolves to talk with Estella the next day and arrange for them to meet up once more. However, her plan fails when Estella flatly rejects the idea, much to Serena's comical dismay. A vein pops on Estella's forehead as she angrily asks whose fault she thinks the animosity is. She explains that meeting Almelia again would only serve to worsen her already foul mood. Serena tries to reassure her, saying Almelia was similarly difficult with her at first. Estella listens to the reassurance, but her unconvinced expression shows it had little effect. With a distant look, she dismisses the idea, stating Almelia is not someone she can befriend anyway. As Estella turns and walks away down the hall, Serena watches her go, looking defeated. Serena has a sudden, frantic realization about the difficulty of mediating between two different social standings. Estella continues down the hall alone, a maid pushing a cart in the opposite direction. She reflects on their conversation, admitting to herself that perhaps she was a little too cold with Serena. The intimidating image of Lady Almelia looms in her thoughts, filling her with a sense of dread. She decides she needs to keep her distance from Serena as well, to avoid upsetting Almelia again. Feeling all alone once more, her solitude is interrupted when another female student approaches her. The girl with reddish-brown hair politely asks if she, Miss Estella, has a moment to spare. The two find a quiet, sparsely furnished room with couches and tables to have a private conversation. The girl apologizes for being so sudden, but felt she should tell Estella about the elective classes. She explains the academy offers several subjects outside of standard classes, like night training and magic crafting. She kindly advises Estella that she can take on as many as she'd like, but shouldn't force herself. Looking over the papers, Estella gets the girl's attention to ask a question about the information. She inquires about the Lapistella Award given for excellent grades, and if grading differs by subject. A haughty blonde girl and her friends interrupt, sneering at the idea of a commoner wanting a Lapistella. She explains that Lapistellas are awarded to those who excel at this academy, the greatest in 3 kingdoms. The rival declares her own ambition to obtain Lapistellas and prove herself fit to be His Highness's woman. Her hand clenches into a fist as she reveals the aggressive motivation behind her ambition. With a menacing look, she vows to crush Estella until she learns her proper place in their society. Serena's mouth opens, her expression hardening as she prepares to intervene in the escalating confrontation. She calmly states that getting in the way of someone's personal goal is a pretty lame thing to do. The rival recognizes her as Serena steps protectively in front of the intimidated Estella. The girl scoffs at the scene, mocking a low-class noble for covering for a commoner to feel superior. Serena asks her not to look down on her love for Estella-chan, causing Estella to blush furiously. The reddish-haired girl, identified as Lady Lactatia, lets out a weary sigh at the unfolding drama. The rival dismisses them with a final warning for Estella not to trample on the Academy's ideals. She promises to get them back for this, warning Serena and Almelia to be prepared next time. Later, Lactatia apologizes to Serena for the trouble, but Serena cheerfully dismisses her concern. Lactatia is surprised that Serena knows her name, which Serena enthusiastically confirms she does. With a gentle tone, Lactatia asks Serena to fix her overly formal and polite way of speaking. In the background, Almelia gives instructions to an attendant, asking to be kept informed of a matter. Estella approaches Serena, expressing her admiration for how she stood firm against such a big shot. Serena deflects the praise, explaining that her milady had shared a bit of her authority with her. Estella admits her dream of earning a Lapistella is impossible, a sentiment that feels familiar to Serena. She lowers her gaze, beginning to explain the truth of her feelings on the matter to Serena. Her face is blank as she trails off, unable to finish her thought, leaving the sentence hanging. She quickly dismisses it as nothing, avoiding Serena's questioning gaze and changing the subject. With a sad smile, she says it's impertinent of her to want one when others are also aiming for it. Serena, looking concerned, earnestly asks Estella if she would be willing to talk with her milady once more. She passionately explains that Almelia is incredibly smart and would surely protect her from such trouble. Estella points out the fatal flaw in the plan. Lady Almelia hates her and has no reason to help. With a serious expression, Serena poses the crucial question: does Estella really want to just give up? Estella looks on nervously, a bead of sweat on her cheek as they prepare to meet with Almelia. They stand before a grand ornate door, the tension building before the important confrontation. Almelia confronts the trembling Estella, asking if she came here knowing full well her request might be in vain. She then turns to Serena, stating unequivocally that she has no intention of taking Estella under her wing. Serena agrees that you can't force two people who don't get along to become friends. However, she believes it's not too late for them to get to know each other properly. If they both talk about their true feelings, she is sure that everything will work out for the best. Almelia considers the idea of true feelings with a sharp, focused gaze, her expression unreadable. Estella begins to apologize for the trouble, but is cut off by Almelia's command to speak. Almelia states her frank opinion that a commoner cannot make it in this prestigious academy. With her head bowed, Estella quietly admits that she, too, agrees with Almelia's harsh assessment. The conversation begins in a quiet, formal room. Estella confesses she was forced to enroll and sever ties with commoners. She reveals her goal was to help her people, but then accuses Almelia of lying. Almelia calmly states that her experience in high society lets her detect lies. She correctly deduces that Estella's true motive is revenge against a noble. Stunned into silence, Estella is unable to deny the sharp accusation. Her face flushing, Estella reveals her true wish is to live with her family again. This raw, emotional confession leaves both Almelia and Serena speechless. Estella admits she knows how stupid her ambition sounds, given her low status. Despite knowing it's ridiculous, she tearfully declares she doesn't want to give up. Serena tries to offer comfort, but Almelia cuts her off with a sharp retort. Almelia harshly questions if the adults would ever choose a commoner as top student. With her hand to her face, she dismisses the entire notion as utterly stupid. A moment of tense silence hangs in the air after her cutting words. Unexpectedly, Almelia's stern expression breaks into a soft, amused laugh. Estella is bewildered, having never imagined Almelia could make such a warm expression. The sudden shift in mood leaves Estella completely lost for words. Almelia muses that helping her might prove to be a fun way to pass the time. With a decisive tone, she announces that she will help Estella out. Overjoyed, Estella thanks her profusely as Serena declares her love for her milady. Almelia appears slightly flustered by the sudden and intense display of affection. Serena congratulates Estella, who is amazed her stubbornness was finally overcome. Almelia's face transforms into a demonic grin as she announces Spartan training. Later, Serena thanks Almelia, whose smile is described as her greatest weapon. She then cheekily requests that Almelia not pay as much attention to Estella. Almelia looks on thoughtfully, preparing to advise Estella on her academic future. She explains that Estella must earn at least one lapistella each school year. When asked, Estella admits she has not yet decided on an elective class. Almelia details the academy's credit system, where points vary by class difficulty. She advises Estella to choose a subject where she can excel. The weight of the decision is shown in a close-up of her determined hand. With a serious look, Almelia states there is one class she must definitely take. A panel explains the game's battle system and how stats can be increased. The narrative notes that some players approach the game for battle over romance. Serena is starstruck upon entering the night training class and seeing its love interest. Almelia begins to question Estella about her reasons for choosing the class. Estella nervously admits that she has never even held a sword before. Almelia correctly guesses that Estella chose the class for its high credit value. Estella confirms that the credits were indeed her primary motivation for enrolling. Almelia's gaze becomes sharp and knowing, her plan falling into place. She cryptically tells a confused Estella that she will understand soon enough. Estella realizes with horror that the class is an excuse for Almelia to beat her up. The chapter begins with a sense of quiet foreboding. Lactasha condescendingly criticizes Almelia's choice of shabby companions. Serena retorts that social status doesn't matter, but a male student interrupts her. He solemnly explains that weaving magic is what separates nobles from commoners. Other students elaborate on magic's crucial role in national defense. Lactasha smugly states that magical power is directly tied to one's social standing. Her glare lands on Serena, whom she singles out as a source of shame. Almelia turns to Serena with concern, asking if they are going to be okay. Serena looks back with a determined expression, reassuring her master not to worry. She then pulls Estella into a tight hug, promising to protect her no matter what. Estella is comically squashed, her face blank with shock from the sudden embrace. The three of them stand together as the class is about to begin. The instructor calls for the next pair of students to start their magic check. Onlookers murmur, noting the matchup is between the commoner and Lady Almelia. Estella feels a terrifying killing intent radiating from her opponent. She panics, realizing this was a setup for Almelia to beat her up. Serena cheers them on from the sidelines, much to Estella's flustered annoyance. Serena recalls a similar event from the game and feels completely unworried. Estella nervously addresses Lady Almelia before their practice match begins. She admits her weakness, but Almelia promises to teach her properly. Almelia lets out a soft sigh, preparing for her unorthodox lesson. Her expression turns deadly serious as she issues a sharp command. In a blur of motion, she attacks not Estella, but the unsuspecting Serena. The instructor and other students are shocked by the sudden, unexpected violence. A small piece of debris clatters to the floor in the aftermath of the blow. Serena cries out Estella's name in a display of feigned panic. The instructor grimly comments that Almelia has reduced the maid to a lump of meat. Amidst the shattered ground, a single foot stands firm and unharmed. Serena is revealed to be completely unscathed, having blocked the powerful attack. Onlookers wonder if her magic is on par with the four great nobles. Almelia lets out a quiet, satisfied chuckle, her plan having succeeded. She internally celebrates, knowing Estella's amazing magic is key to her role. Almelia's expression is calm and pleased as she observes the outcome. An annoyed Serena grabs Almelia, demanding to know what she was thinking. Almelia explains that mortal danger is the best way to learn magic fortification. Her gaze is sharp and focused as she continues her logical explanation. She points out that such a powerful defense is surely worthy of some credits. The instructor, looking on, hesitantly agrees with her assessment. Estella realizes that Serena's immense magic is why she was invited to the class. She throws her arms up, joyfully congratulating Serena on her success. In the background, a traumatized Almelia mutters that Serena is dead. Almelia staggers, weakly asking if she is still alive after the shock. The instructor muses on Serena's power, wondering if Almelia was aware of it. His gaze ignites as he begins to explain the advanced technique they witnessed. He details how magic fortification on the eyes can perceive unseen forces. This complex skill is likened to sensing one's own blood flow without a pulse. He recalls hearing rumors of Almelia's exceptional talent in magic. He is impressed that she has learned such an advanced skill at her young age. While scribbling notes, he decides she still gets demerits for her dangerous behavior. The focus of the class then shifts to the next matchup. Serena tends to Estella, quietly resolving not to expect so much from her. Now Serena stands opposite a new opponent, raising her practice sword. A male student scoffs, doubting a low-class noble's attendant should be there. Serena admits to herself that this is the full extent of her own magic. She reaffirms her promise to protect Almelia, even if it takes everything she has. Lactasha looks on unimpressed, asking if that is all the power Serena can muster. She calls Serena a dunce and dismisses Estella as nothing special. Lactasha lectures that an individual's uselessness brings down their whole group's value. Lactasha's insult widens, declaring that it applies to Lady Almelia as well. Hearing this, Serena's expression hardens as she quietly demands the words be retracted. Her voice gains strength, politely but firmly asking Lady Lactasha to take it back. Lactasha smirks, realizing Serena took the bait, and proposes a duel as her answer. Almelia rushes forward in a panic, calling her maid a fool and trying to intervene. She desperately explains the insurmountable difference in their magical power, a hopeless fight. With a pained expression, Almelia asks if this is for Estella's sake once more. Serena offers a slightly sheepish, apologetic smile to her deeply concerned mistress. With a bright grin, she reaffirms her promise to make Almelia happy. Almelia is left speechless, a mixture of worry and frustration on her face. She whispers a weak protest, feeling Serena's words are all the more reason to stop. Serena confidently tells Almelia not to worry about her reputation, wanting to prove her worth. Almelia questions her maid's strategy, knowing she can't win with magic alone. Serena playfully teases her mistress about her own supposed lack of defensive talent. With a determined step forward, she tells them all to just watch what happens next. She winks, declaring she has one special trait that is far beyond the norm. In the training arena, the instructor allows the duel, but cautions Lactatia to hold back. Lactatia's face twists with malice as she vows to teach Serena a harsh lesson. From the sidelines, Estella voices her deep concern for Serena's safety in the fight. Almelia grimly notes the vast power difference, considering whether she should step in. Estella quietly ponders the nature of magic, a skill likened to sensing one's own blood. Lactatia lunges forward, screaming her intent to crush Serena's arms completely. Her powerful overhead strike whistles through the air towards the calm maid. Serena meets the blow, her grip steady on her own wooden practice sword. She channels her power, unleashing a focused magic fortification to block the attack. As the two blades clash, Lactatia is stunned by the effortless block. Onlookers murmur in disbelief at Lactatia's failure to even make a dent. Estella expresses her immense relief that Serena appears to be completely unhurt. Serena forces a pained smile, trembling from the unseen force of the impact. She realizes with horror the shockwave has bypassed her defenses, causing internal damage. Almelia watches in confusion as her maid suddenly staggers and begins to collapse. Estella rushes to her side, asking what's wrong as Serena's vision blurs. A flashback shows Almelia's past disdain for commoners, a sharp contrast to now. A younger Estella looks on, her expression suggesting the words had an impact. The memory continues with Almelia declaring commoners should be driven from the academy. The static of the memory fades, returning to the present moment of crisis. Almelia's past self shouts at the students, punctuating her point with a sword slash. Serena's eyes flutter open, surprised to find herself awake and conscious. She looks around the unfamiliar infirmary, wondering where she is. Estella explains she passed out and is now suffering from muscular pain all over. She sits by the bed, a gentle and concerned expression on her face. Estella relays the doctor's words, saying Serena was lucky to escape worse injury. Serena speculates Lactatia held back, but Estella flatly denies this possibility. The conversation turns to class, and Serena panics at realizing it's already over. She tries to leap from bed to attend her duties, but Estella protests. Leaning out the window, Estella insists her friend needs to rest properly. Serena lands outside, admitting with a sigh that she feels a little bummed out. Elsewhere, Almelia fumes, certain that Lactatia must be incredibly angry with her. Finding her mistress, Serena bows her head and apologizes for her failure. Almelia lets out a short, dismissive sound, not accepting the apology. She sighs again, her frustration evident as she turns away from her maid. Almelia tells Serena there's no need to apologize since she wasn't there at the end. Serena turns to open a door, stating there is something more important to do. Almelia follows, her expression stern, questioning why her maid isn't resting. Serena cheekily asks if her milady is worried about her, earning a flustered denial. Almelia shivers, claiming she's just getting a chill, while Serena looks on confused. To prove her point, Serena insists that her body is now perfectly fine. She demonstrates her rapid healing, her arm glowing with magical light. Almelia is shocked by this impossible level of magic control for her age. Serena offers a weak excuse about her reincarnation, which she can't reveal. She knows her mistress doesn't believe her flimsy explanation for a moment. Entering another room, Serena's mood becomes somber as she speaks again. She admits she was barely able to withstand the attack due to the power gap. Almelia silently agrees with her maid's grim assessment of the situation. Serena laments her fate as a background character in a world ruled by magic. She lets out a heavy sigh, reflecting on the sheer foolishness of her actions. The thought of blocking such a powerful attack was normally unthinkable. Almelia walks past, her footsteps echoing as she prepares to speak. She commands Serena to leave the fighting to those with high magic levels. With a sharp gesture, she warns her maid not to think she is special. Serena looks downcast, silently agreeing with her mistress's harsh words. She accepts her limited role as a reincarnated girl meant only to offer support. A close-up on her eye reveals the quiet pain of her resignation. A flashback shows Almelia's past self lecturing other students with aristocratic disdain. Serena's chin is shadowed as she contemplates her difficult position in this world. She apologizes to Almelia, admitting she is aware she doesn't know her place. With a warm smile, she vows she would still try to help if Almelia were hurt. Almelia immediately forbids it, warning it would only put Serena in more danger. Her hand clenches as she struggles to contain her complex emotions. Turning away, she mumbles that all Serena must do is stay by her side forever. Serena asks if she said something, but Almelia quickly denies it was anything. She lets out a weary sigh, her legs crossed as she prepares to lecture her maid. Almelia declares she'll have to train Serena so she doesn't die foolishly. She explains the dangers of using such focused magic fortification again. Serena looks at her mistress, a warm, affectionate smile spreading across her face. She praises Almelia's kindness, which allowed her to enroll in the academy. Leaning in, she earnestly asks how she can repay her, promising to do anything. The open-ended offer sends Almelia into a state of flustered shock. Serena's expression turns playful as she prepares to tease her vulnerable mistress. She whirls around, closing the distance between them with a mischievous look. A sly grin spreads across her face as she leans in to whisper. She teasingly asks if her milady was just thinking about something naughty. Almelia recoils, her face beet red as she stammers in embarrassment. Serena gently takes her hand, trying to reassure her flustered mistress. She tells Almelia there's no need to be embarrassed, happy that she feels that way. Serena suggests that as a great noble, Almelia needs to learn to cut loose. She notes that her lady's constant diligence makes her shoulders stiff with tension. Leaning in close, she asks if she can have her way with Almelia's body. Almelia clenches her fist, her resolve crumbling under the intense suggestion. In a small voice, she gives in, making a single vulnerable request to be gentle. With an excited blush, Serena enthusiastically declares her grand plan for her mistress. Almelia stares back, her expression one of pure, dumbfounded shock at the proposal. An ornate corner of a grand building is shown under a bright sky. From behind, Serena works diligently while Almelia mutters in honest exasperation. Serena explains her vision, shortening the skirt and wrapping a top like a cardigan. Almelia strongly objects, refusing to be involved in her maid's strange fashion sense. A close-up reveals Serena's slightly smug smile as her plan proceeds. Almelia recalls Serena's odd statement about gyarus and villainesses being similar. Serena, in her distinct maid attire, considers how to put her thoughts into words. She shyly admits she would be happy to match with her lady, then laughs it off. A flustered Almelia dismisses the whole affair as utterly foolish. Turning away, she firmly insists that no matter what, she will not wear that. Serena's hopeful expression seems to cause Almelia to hesitate for a moment. Almelia concedes that she might at least think about it if she's in the mood. Serena's cheerful agreement echoes from inside the room. Elsewhere, a conversation begins with a question about Almelia quarreling again. A young nobleman reports a rumor that Almelia used her maid to trick Lactasha. A stern man, Sylvester, recalls Almelia's maid from the entrance ceremony. The nobleman insists that Sylvester must intervene as her older brother. The serious man is identified as Sylvester Selsbright. A white-haired girl, Estelle, reflects on her difficult but manageable new school life. She credits two new friends for helping her overcome her initial anxiety. Her peaceful moment is shattered by Serena's cheerful and sudden greeting. Almelia's intense gaze lands on Estelle, noting her apparent lack of rest. She menacingly suggests it would be fine if Estelle never woke up again. Heading to class, Almelia sternly warns Serena not to be so clingy. Serena brightly misinterprets this, promising to look after Estelle instead. Almelia walks away, leaving her two friends standing behind her. Serena playfully offers to cuddle with Estelle, who quickly refuses in fear. Another student expresses amazement that Estelle has been preparing for her classes. Estelle explains that Lady Almelia insisted she learn basic noble etiquette. Serena advises Estelle not to push herself too hard with all her new studies. She asks if Estelle is stressed from her sudden immersion into nobility. Estelle considers the question with a thoughtful, slightly weary expression. She admits that the constant glares from other nobles are unpleasant. Serena listens intently as Estelle continues to explain her feelings. Estelle clenches her fist, declaring her complex is that noble life is too cushy. She remarks on the delicious food and soft beds, things she used to hate. Serena reflects that noble life has its own difficulties compared to her past life. She marvels at the luxury of Almelia's room, which includes a private bath. Estelle finds the idea of so much hot water both nice and a little scary. Serena suggests they bathe together, an offer Estelle rejects out of fear of Almelia. Estelle lets out a weary sigh, her patience clearly tested by the situation. She concludes that Serena is a good person, despite her stressful nature. Another student wonders what the difficult Lady Almelia sees in her cheerful maid. Serena suddenly remembers she has a message for Estelle from her lady. Estelle looks on with a questioning expression, wondering what it could be. The scene shifts to the exterior of a grand academy building at dusk. Estelle looks up at the imposing structure, marveling at its sheer scale. She wonders how the hallways can be so brightly lit without any fire. A voice suddenly addresses her from behind, startling her from her thoughts. A young man explains that this area is restricted to high-ranking nobles. He assesses her with a serious and slightly probing gaze. He correctly deduces she is a commoner, and she introduces herself as Estelle. He acknowledges that he has heard of her impressive magical abilities. He warns her that being here so casually could attract unwanted attention. Estelle explains she was summoned by one of the four noble families. The young man's expression darkens as he identifies the noble as Almelia Selsbright. He asks if she has any connection to Almelia, and she confirms she is in her care. He lets out a weary sigh upon hearing this news. He launches into a harsh critique of Almelia's domineering and harsh personality. Estelle tries to defend her, but inwardly admits she can't entirely deny his claims. He places a hand over his heart, sincerely offering his assistance to her. With a warm and gentle smile, he reveals he is Almelia's older brother. Estelle is left completely stunned and speechless by this unexpected revelation. Later, she arrives at the doorway to a room ready for her meeting. Almelia greets her with an annoyed expression, stating that she is late. Estelle apologizes, explaining that she was momentarily delayed on her way. Almelia dismisses the apology with a single disgruntled huff. Estelle reflects on the news that Almelia has a brother, considering his offer of help. She wonders if she should reconsider her arrangement with the difficult noblewoman. Almelia impatiently glares, telling her to hurry up and come inside. Estelle questions whether Almelia truly deserves the scorn her brother cast upon her. She asks Lady Almelia why she was summoned to this place. Almelia declares she will engrave Estelle's position into her very body. A terrified Estelle asks if she can just go home, but is coldly refused. Almelia reassures her not to worry, stating she has no intention of actually hurting her. She instructs Estelle to take a seat, leaving her confused and deeply anxious. Almelia begins the strange session with a gentle, reassuring pat on Estelle's head. The gentle pat immediately turns into a firm, crushing grip of magical power. Almelia explains this is training, prompted by her annoyance at seeing Estelle cling to Serena. Her gaze sharpens as she prepares to explain the rules of the exercise. Estelle must learn to sense Almelia's magic and can only react when in its proximity. A nervous Estelle asks what will happen if she fails to react quickly enough. Almelia sighs, stating that cleaning up the resulting mess would be a great hassle. Estelle weakly asks if they could perhaps try a safer training method instead. Almelia glares, commanding her to quit whining so they can finally begin. Overwhelmed by fear, Estelle begins to sob quietly in despair. The scene shifts to later that night outside the academy building. Serena arrives cheerfully, announcing she is done with her work for the day. She finds Estelle looking pale and translucent, exclaiming that she's dead again. Serena immediately turns to her mistress, scolding her for pushing Estelle so hard. An establishing shot shows the interior of a well-appointed room. Almelia defends her methods, stating that risking one's life yields better results. Estelle worries Almelia's harshness is due to jealousy over her friendship with Serena. Serena begins to explain her perspective on the dangerous training session. Estelle looks up, asking her friend if the training wasn't a bit too dangerous. Serena abruptly changes the subject to the coolness of magic fortification. She refocuses, stating that a novice like Estelle can't handle such rough training. She insists that Estelle could have been seriously hurt by the dangerous exercise. A quiet "oh" escapes Estelle's lips as she processes the scene before her. Serena tries to reassure her, explaining that Almelia never truly hurts anyone in training. A realization dawns on Estelle. She recalls instinctively using magic to strengthen her hand. Almelia concedes that accidents can happen but asserts she would handle any such situation. Getting close to a blushing Almelia, Serena demands to know why she pushes Estelle so hard. A close-up reveals the flustered and conflicted emotion in Almelia's eyes. She dismisses the concern with a huff, calling her actions mere precautionary measures. Turning to Estelle, Almelia asks if her goal is still to be the top of her class. She then explains the importance of self-defense against resentful nobles and power control. Touched by this, Estelle quietly asks if Almelia is doing all of this for her. Almelia denies it, claiming it's only to prevent inconvenience, earning a tease from Serena. Muttering to herself, Almelia admits she doesn't know the word tsundere, but finds it annoying. A look of profound understanding crosses Estelle's face as she murmurs her comprehension. In that moment, Estelle has a revelation, realizing this is the true Lady Almelia. She deduces that Almelia's poor communication skills are what keep others away from her. Serena cheerfully explains that their bond works because opposites attract. With a relieved smile, Estelle admits she never expected Almelia to be so kind. Serena then playfully invites a panicked Almelia to the bath, causing her to stammer. Estelle notes that Almelia's tough facade always crumbles when Serena's involved. Later that night, Almelia stands outside, beginning a conversation with her brother. She starts to reference a discussion they had the previous day. Estelle reassures the brother that with Serena's support, everything will be all right. Accepting her words, he decides he should hear what she has to say. He later approaches Serena, asking if she is his sister's new maid. The scene flashes back to Almelia accusing her brother of pestering the commoner girl. She warns him to stop being polite to lower classes, threatening to intervene. Her brother reflects on how Almelia's harshness has always left her utterly alone. He resolves to forge his own path, one where he can keep smiling. A memory shows a younger Almelia berating him, her brilliance making her hard to argue with. He recalls how even now, her servants always seem to be suffering. He concludes that this negative perception was, at least, what he had always believed. His somber thoughts are shattered by Serena's starstruck exclamation upon seeing him. She gushes over him, recognizing him from a game she knew in a past life. He asks if she is Almelia's new maid. Utterly bewildered by her enthusiasm, he wonders what is wrong with this girl. Serena cheerfully confirms her identity with a peace sign. She suddenly realizes her unprofessionalism, her expression turning serious. Clearing her throat, she apologizes for her forwardness. She then introduces herself formally as Serena Flamel, Lady Almelia's new maid. A still overwhelmed Sylvester sighs and asks how he may be of service. They stand near a pillar in a grand hallway. He questions her about an incident with Lady Lactatia, and she explains she acted alone. She laughs, adding that Almelia would have wanted to stop her. He then asks about Estelle, voicing his fear that Almelia is torturing her. Serena begins to suggest a different course of action. She asks why he doesn't just speak with his sister directly. Her simple question makes Sylvester freeze in place. She is shocked to learn he hasn't spoken to Almelia since she enrolled. He claims he's had no choice in the matter. His composure breaks, and he shouts that his sister is far too scary to approach. He confesses he could never stand up to her, even as a child. Serena smiles gently, preparing to offer a different perspective. She tries to reassure him, admitting she was also scared of Almelia at first. She insists that her milady is actually quite kind, but he vehemently denies it. He accuses Serena of being threatened into defending his sister. Serena laughs, insisting Almelia is just a bit socially awkward. He retorts, asking if social awkwardness explains her terrifying death glare. Serena realizes she must change his long-held negative opinion of his sister. Deciding on a plan, she suggests they go see for themselves. The scene shifts to the academy building under a bright sky. In the library, she points out Almelia helping Estelle with her studies. Serena tries to frame it as a kind act, but Almelia scoffs. Sylvester cynically believes her trust issues compel her to get involved in everything. He remains convinced there must be a darker, ulterior motive for her actions. Almelia advises Estelle to use what she's learned in daily life. Serena praises her as a great teacher, but Sylvester is still unmoved. Almelia's tone turns menacing, threatening to use pain to help Estelle remember. Horrified, Sylvester thinks his sister is a monster and wonders if he's the only one who sees it. Serena, however, interprets the scene as Almelia simply teasing a cute Estelle. Utterly baffled by her cheerful take, Serena admits she doesn't understand. Sylvester demands to know why she defends Almelia so fiercely. He argues that Almelia is undeniably a difficult person, so she should just give up on her. Serena pauses, her expression becoming soft and thoughtful. She looks up as if recalling a precious memory. She reveals it's because her lady's smile is so incredibly beautiful. Sylvester is left speechless, while Serena laughs awkwardly at her own sentimentality. She explains that seeing that smile made her realize Almelia is a kind, misunderstood person. She felt that if someone didn't intervene, things could go terribly wrong for her. The first time she saw that smile was the moment she understood the truth. Her voice trails off, the memory still powerful. Her thoughtful moment is interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. Panicking, she realizes Almelia is coming their way. As she prepares to flee, she asks Sylvester if he's sure he doesn't want to see her. She apologizes for not being more help and makes a hasty retreat. Almelia arrives, asking what's going on, and Serena nervously says it's nothing. Almelia's gaze then falls upon her brother, who stands frozen and silent. A soft expression crosses her face as she wonders when she last saw him look that way. A flashback narrated by Estelle explains Almelia's difficult childhood personality. She treated everyone with noble superiority, leading to her being hated and isolated. The only people who approached her were adults interested in her status, never accepting her. Sylvester reflects that he always knew she was in a rough, lonely position. He believed her stubbornness was insurmountable, a vicious cycle he couldn't break. But seeing her now, he realizes his long-held perception might have been wrong. A rare, gentle smile graces Almelia's face, her expression soft and happy. From the library stacks, her brother observes with surprise, realizing she truly can smile. The scene transitions to a brightly lit room. Serena asks Almelia if her work is done, but Almelia realizes she forgot something. She chides herself to get a grip as she takes a step forward. Estelle notices Almelia's brother approaching and greeting his sister. Almelia recognizes her brother as he approaches with a knowing, teasing smile. Sylvester teases his sister Almelia, suggesting she has been intentionally avoiding him. Inside a grand library, Almelia offers her brother a formal and respectful bow. Estelle remarks to Sylvester that he seems much kinder than Almelia had described. Almelia's expression remains stoic and partially hidden, her feelings unreadable. A blush appears on Almelia's face as she insists that's simply how things are. Sylvester looks slightly taken aback by his sister's flustered reaction. With a laugh, he points out that even his stubborn sister learned to cooperate. Almelia's embarrassed expression shows she has become more emotionally open. A knowing smile crosses Sylvester's face as he guesses the reason for her change. Serena offers her heartfelt thanks to Sylvester, explaining she had a wonderful time. Sylvester encourages his sister to join the happy moment, prompting a massive grin from her. A loud thud echoes from a grand building, signaling an abrupt and comical event. Inside, a mop rests on the floor as someone lets out a weary sigh. Serena, holding the mop, expresses her confusion about what just went wrong. Estelle dryly explains that Sylvester was scarred for life again by Almelia's terrifying smile. Serena's hand tightens around the mop handle as she considers her situation. She reminds herself that she's the only one who knows the future from the game. The polished floor reflects the light as she ponders her next move. Her expression brightens with renewed optimism as she reassures herself it will be okay. A realization strikes her. There is one specific thing she can do for Almelia. Elsewhere, Prince Leonardia resolves to ensure Almelia's engagement to him proceeds as planned. A new chapter begins with Serena looking shocked, asking if Lady Almelia is engaged. Estelle cheerfully confirms the news, identifying the fiancé as Lord Leonardia. Estelle admits she finds it impossible to imagine Almelia having a fiancé. Serena's eye reveals a flicker of deep concern as she begins to voice a doubt. When questioned by Estelle, Serena quickly dismisses her worry as nothing. Estelle excitedly explains that Lord Leonardia is the prince and future king. She concludes that this means Almelia will become the queen, which is awesome. Serena's expression remains troubled and thoughtful, despite the seemingly good news. Estelle theorizes that Almelia must have misunderstood Serena's intentions at first. She recalls how Almelia seemed to think Serena was just pretending to be nice. Estelle muses that Serena's odd behavior likely caused a misunderstanding that helped them connect. She concludes with a sigh that this seems to be the case. The scene shifts to Almelia and Estelle sitting at a table. Almelia sharply asks a distracted Estelle what is on her mind. Startled, Estelle stiffens and apologizes, claiming she was focusing on her etiquette. Estelle remains quiet, though her posture suggests she is still troubled. She glances furtively toward Almelia, her worry evident in her eyes. Almelia catches the look and her patience wears thin, asking if something is wrong. She presses further, demanding to know if Estelle has something to say. Estelle hesitates for a moment, mustering the courage to speak. She finally reveals that she heard about Lady Almelia's engagement. Estelle adds that she's been bothered by what Almelia thinks of Serena. Almelia reacts with irritation, questioning why Estelle is bringing Serena up. Her expression is a mixture of annoyance and a slight defensive blush. She lets out an exasperated sigh, clearly unhappy with the topic. Almelia begins to explain her position, reminding Estelle of her high social status. She states that for her family, an arranged marriage is expected and her thoughts don't matter. She declares that marriage is a noble's duty and a union between two women is impossible. Estelle points out that marriage would prevent Almelia from staying by Serena's side. Almelia falls silent, the weight of Estelle's words clearly affecting her. With a frustrated huff, she dismisses the question, refusing to answer. She insists that the entire affair has nothing to do with Estelle. Estelle dramatically declares it's a matter of life and death for her. Almelia suspiciously asks if Estelle plans to steal Serena away after the wedding. Her gaze is sharp and accusatory, misinterpreting Estelle's concern completely. Almelia ends the conversation, ordering Estelle to practice her lessons before walking away. The sound of a door slamming leaves Estelle looking worried and alone. A thought bubble expresses a sincere hope that everything is actually fine. Almelia walks alone down a long corridor, her posture rigid with tension. She mutters to herself that she already knows the harsh truths Estelle spoke of. Her steps are heavy as she admits to herself that even so, her feelings remain. Suddenly, a confident Lord Leonardia appears before her in the hallway. A maid behind him flinches at his sudden imposing presence. Almelia quickly composes herself, offering a polite and formal greeting to her lord. Leonardia lets out a dismissive sound and deliberately bumps her shoulder as he passes. His maid looks on nervously, calling out his title with concern. She reminds him that people are watching and he should at least greet his fiancée. Leonardia looks hesitant, clearly reluctant to engage with Almelia. He suggests they find a more private place to talk, addressing her by name. The scene transitions as they move to a different location for their discussion. At a table, Leonardia complains that the engagement is a bother and wishes for freedom. Almelia firmly counters that royalty does not have the option to choose their spouse. She explains the risk of allowing a child to choose a future royal family member. Leonardia lets out a dismissive scoff at her pragmatic reasoning. He sarcastically remarks that she's a perfect fit for royalty, chosen for her magic. He concedes that magic is necessary, but human nature cannot be ignored. Leaning forward, he asks if she remembers a specific event from their past. A flashback begins, taking the story back 3 years to a forest clearing. A younger Leonardia powerfully slashes through a monstrous, wolf-like beast. He sheathes his sword as a senior knight praises his splendid work. The knight commends his impressive magical powers and adult-level sword skills. Leonardia recalls that this was on the eve of his 12th birthday, a rite of passage. The knight declares that after slaying such beasts, he can no longer be seen as a child. Another knight mentions Lady Almelia is present and will surely be impressed. Leonardia's memory hints that Almelia did something unexpected despite this. He remembers asking about a commotion as a knight stammered about Almelia's actions. A younger Almelia stands over the massive slain body of a cockatrice. At his party, Leonardia overhears that Almelia defeated it alone, despite weaker magic. The memory shifts to his birthday party the following day. He cruelly accused her of purposefully hunting the beast to upstage him. Almelia's hands clench into fists on the table, hurt by his venomous words. A maid tries to defend her, but Almelia denies it was to protect everyone. Leonardia lets out a dismissive scoff at her pain denial. Almelia walks away, thinking that being with her kind maid has made her weak. Back in the present, Almelia sighs, lost in the painful memory. She resigns herself to her fate, believing Leonardia hates her. She concludes that she will have to marry him, as he won't break the engagement. A memory of Serena's bright smile and promise to make her happy gives her hope. She believes that with Serena supporting her, she might be able to endure it. The maid Serena expresses her surprise at finding her lady with Lord Leonardia. Looking away in embarrassment, Almelia reluctantly identifies the newcomer as her maid. Her mistress quietly scolds her for the dramatic entrance, warning about attracting attention. Lord Leonardia smirks, recalling the maid from training and accusing her of trickery. With a cheerful smile, Serena politely addresses the nobleman as her lord. Almelia quickly interjects, telling Leonardia not to interrogate her low-ranking maid. He questions her objection, asking what is wrong with him speaking to her maid. The tension in the room becomes palpable and awkward for all involved. Leonardia's sharp gaze focuses on the situation, waiting for an answer. Serena smoothly explains that her lady is just worried about her poor etiquette. She admits with a self-deprecating air that she is not good at her duties. Beaming, she praises Almelia for being nice and letting her attend the academy. Leonardia cynically dismisses her words as calculated compliments meant to manipulate him. Serena then declares brightly that she only wants to support their marriage. He questions if her goal is to become a maid for the royal family. She dismisses the idea, stating she wouldn't do well in a castle. In a heartfelt gesture, she embraces Almelia, wishing only for her happiness. Almelia's face is a mask of shock, her composure completely shattered by the words. She abruptly pulls away from her maid in the tense conversation. Stating she feels unwell, she excuses herself from the table. When Serena tries to follow, Almelia sharply orders her to stay back. In a brief, gentle moment, she pats her maid's head before turning away. Overwhelmed, she suddenly shoves Serena, yelling that she will be fine. A look of shock and regret crosses Almelia's face at her own outburst. Her hand remains clenched as she processes what she has just done. Leonardia remarks with disdain that Almelia never apologizes for her actions. Serena looks up from the floor, her expression filled with worry. Almelia turns and walks swiftly away from the scene. Her loyal maid watches her go, calling out her name with concern. The dark-haired noblewoman walks with purpose, her expression unreadable. She reaches her private chambers, heading for her large curtained bed. In a state of emotional exhaustion, she collapses onto the bedding. Serena stands outside the door, preparing to check on her mistress. Knocking gently, she asks if her lady is all right inside the room. Almelia sits up on the bed, remaining silent and facing away. Serena enters the room, finding her mistress sitting on the bed. She approaches hesitantly, unsure of what to say. With a sad smile, she blames herself for angering her lady. In a separate memory, an attendant leaves a tray of food for Almelia. The sound of the attendant's footsteps fades, leaving Almelia alone. Lying on her bed, she is consumed by sorrow and regret. She concludes that she is the real idiot in this situation. A new chapter begins with Almelia believing this is punishment for her personality. The scene is filled with a chaotic, disorienting visual pattern. This pattern continues, suggesting a state of inner turmoil and confusion. She recalls the gossip of maids, calling her too prideful to ever apologize. The disorienting pattern returns, emphasizing her fractured state of mind. A memory surfaces of a past incident involving the prince. She remembers spotting monsters and acting quickly to protect the knights. In her mind, she saw no reason to apologize for preventing harm. This arrogance, she now realizes, is why their relationship soured. A determined look flashes in her eye as she processes her past mistakes. She recalls her disbelief that someone could like a worthless person like her. She accepts this pain as the natural consequence of her own arrogance. The chaotic pattern appears again, marking the end of her reflection. The scene shifts to the exterior of the Grand Academy building. A door slams open as a student, Estelle, is returning a book. Serena explains the academy is busy due to Lord Leonardia's upcoming party. Important nobles, she says, travel to the royal capital for such events. Estelle expresses surprise at the distance to the royal capital. Her friend cheerfully tells her not to worry about the journey. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Lord Leonardia. He identifies Estelle as the commoner, and she offers a nervous greeting. Estelle recognizes him as the person connected to Lady Almelia. He notes that it is not surprising she is unaware of certain things. With a graceful gesture, he lifts his hand to demonstrate his power. A magnificent bird-like elemental made of light materializes above his hand. Serena reminds Estelle that this is how they can use fire and water magic. She adds that elementals have many uses beyond combat, like powering carriages. With a bright smile, she promises Estelle she will be back soon. Serena opens a door, preparing to depart for the royal capital. Estelle is startled as Serena leaves with a final, cheerful farewell. Later, Estelle and Serena find Lady Almelia looking withdrawn. They are startled by the sudden arrival of His Highness, the Prince. Estelle asks the Prince what brings him to see them. He explains with annoyance that he must discuss party plans with his fiancée. Estelle recalls a recent conversation where the Prince noted Almelia's strange behavior. She had a bad feeling that Almelia was acting strangely and Serena was less energetic. Now it seems her intuition about the situation was correct. The trio's usual dynamics seem strained and unhappy. Estelle wonders if things can ever return to the way they were before. She stands silently, lost in her own troubled thoughts. A part of her admits she didn't want things to go back to normal. As carriages wait outside, Serena bids a final farewell to Estelle. Almelia watches as her loyal maid prepares to depart for the capital. Estelle looks on as Almelia stands by the waiting carriage. Almelia remarks that Serena is simply a kind-hearted person, and that is all. With a dismissive "humph," she turns away as the carriage leaves. The rhythmic clip-clop of hooves echoes as the carriage departs. The carriage travels down a long road, leaving the academy behind. The scene shifts to a quiet night at the academy building. Serena appears, her expression suggesting a tense and difficult journey. Almelia's face is a mask of stoic unhappiness during the trip. They arrive at a grand estate in the royal capital for the party. Guests thank Almelia for traveling so far to attend the celebration. They comment on what a perfect match she and the prince make. Suddenly, the sound of a crash shatters the refined atmosphere. Almelia turns in shock towards the source of the commotion. A blonde noblewoman smiles maliciously, a champagne flute in her hand. She declares that an unwelcome guest is ruining the prince's celebration. A blonde noblewoman glares intensely, her eyes sharp with utter disdain. Laktasha comments on the maid's impertinent gaze, dismissing her as Almelia's lapdog. She cruelly suggests the maid ask her master for help, knowing it would ruin her reputation. Standing nearby, Almelia quietly acknowledges the painful truth in Laktasha's words. Serena steps forward, stating her lady is busy and that she will take any insults herself. Laktasha accepts this, her expression twisting with rage as she vows to make Serena understand. Raising a champagne flute, she prepares to demonstrate the full extent of her fury. Almelia's expression hardens with rising anger at the unfolding humiliation. Taking a purposeful step, she moves swiftly to intervene in the confrontation. She grabs Laktasha's wrist, who questions why she would help the one who betrayed her. A single step is all it takes before her own composure begins to falter under the strain. Overwhelmed, Almelia lets out a pained grunt and collapses to the floor with a crash. A bystander wonders about the commotion, callously blaming Almelia for her own fall. The scene transitions to a wide outdoor shot, signifying the beginning of a journey. A fist is raised against a scenic backdrop, a gesture of departure and resolve. A horse-drawn carriage travels along a winding road, its wheels clattering on the path. Serena stretches languidly, remarking on how tough the party's farewells must have been. A noble observes that all carriages except for Lord Leonardia's have already departed. A quiet moment of silence passes between Almelia and Serena after the tumultuous event. Serena's face shines with concern as she asks if her lady is all right after the incident. She cheerfully insists that her own magic can speed up the healing process for any injury. Almelia retorts that Serena is always pretending she can do things she actually cannot. Following a sheepish apology from Serena, Almelia vulnerably asks if she is a pain. A flashback reveals Almelia blindfolded, lost in a moment of silent, pained reflection. A young Estelle confirms her awareness of a situation with a deeply troubled expression. In the carriage, Almelia realizes that Serena is genuinely pure and kind, not deceptive. She reflects on how Serena served her without ulterior motives, yet she misunderstood her. Her guilt deepens, acknowledging she forced countless apologies from the innocent maid. Almelia's eyes are filled with a dawning, painful understanding of her own flaws. A wave of shame washes over her as she lets out a soft sigh of regret. Her expression is etched with sorrow and self-recrimination for her past actions. She heartbreakingly questions why she always ends up saying things that hurt people. Their carriage continues its journey along a winding, forested mountain path. A sudden rustling from the dense forest signals an unseen danger approaching. A violent impact rocks the carriage, sending Almelia stumbling forward in shock. Catching her balance, she whirls around, demanding to know the source of the sound. Serena's face pales with dread as she realizes the gravity of their situation. The prince's carriage is shown, one of its large wheels torn from the axle. Inside, the prince is dazed, his eye twitching as he tries to process the attack. A knight shouts a warning to His Highness, identifying their attacker as a monster. Another knight draws his sword, ordering onlookers to get back from the danger. Serena looks on, her mind racing as she questions what is happening. She tries to comprehend the nature of the creature that attacked them. A monstrous cockatrice looms over the wreckage, having just slammed the carriage. The attendant cries out in alarm for the safety of Lord Leonardia and the others. Almelia recognizes the beast, murmuring in disbelief that it's a cockatrice. She begins to assess the situation, her expression turning grim and focused. The attendant notes that as long as the knights target its tail, they should be fine. Almelia's gaze shifts, her own priority becoming clear in the chaos. She resolves to focus on ensuring her magically powerful maid, Serena, is not harmed. A piercing scream of pure terror suddenly rips through the air. Lord Leonardia is caught in the cockatrice's gaze, his body turning to stone. Almelia's eye widens in shock as she witnesses the horrifying event. She berates herself for messing up, for letting her guard down at a critical moment. She believes this is her punishment for ignoring her conflict with the prideful prince. Her guilt intensifies as she recalls being unable to face the person who mattered most. In the end, she realizes she couldn't bring herself to apologize to them. Serena moves to stand protectively in front of her guilt-ridden mistress. With a guttural cry of immense effort, Serena grits her teeth to act. She hoists a large piece of debris, swinging it with a powerful primal scream. The projectile strikes the monster in a massive, deafening explosion. The effort leaves Serena completely spent, wobbling on her feet in a daze. Her body gives out, and she begins to collapse from total exhaustion. Dazed and blinking, she faintly hears a voice calling her name from the haze. Almelia rushes to her side, her face filled with frantic worry as Serena expresses relief. The party gathers around, bewildered, as Serena tries to dismiss their worries. She waves cheerfully, insisting she'll be fine, just as a sickening sound is heard. Her expression dissolves into one of pure, uncomprehending shock. She looks down in disbelief, unable to process what has just happened. Her horrified scream echoes through the forest, questioning the cruel reality. A new chapter begins, showing Serena's arm now a heavily bandaged stump. Her eyes are dull with despair as she stares at her bandaged limb. She wonders if she'll be like this forever, calling her reincarnation a nightmare. The door to her room opens with a clunk, startling her from her thoughts. Lady Almelia stands in the doorway, her expression somber and concerned. Almelia greets her as the head maid notes she was with Lord Leonardia. Serena tries to insist she is fine, but the head maid orders her to stay in bed. The head maid announces she will make her report brief and simple. She begins by bowing, a formal gesture that surprises the injured Serena. She offers a sincere apology for Serena's involvement in the terrible accident. The maid explains Lord Leonardia's use of a royal elemental was clearly excessive. She informs them that the Lord will come to apologize in a few days. Almelia is incensed, demanding to know why he is waiting to apologize. A small bead of sweat appears on Almelia's face, showing her frustration. The head maid offers her understanding of the situation to a confused Serena. She describes the Lord as an honest man who will offer proper compensation. She raises the possibility that he might suggest Serena become his concubine. Serena is shocked by the word concubine as the maid questions her future employment. Serena looks at her stump, the reality of her injury finally sinking in. The head maid advises her to consult with the head steward before deciding anything. Serena forces a bright smile, while the maid says they will talk about her return later. Almelia's face is cast in shadow, filled with concern, guilt, and helplessness. The head maid excuses herself, leaving the room. Alone, Serena lets out a heavy sigh, looking at her bandaged limb. A palpable gloom descends as she realizes she'll have to leave the academy. She continues to ponder her uncertain future and what it means for her friends. Almelia re-enters the room, her expression filled with profound remorse. She sits by the bed and apologizes to Serena, blaming herself for everything. Serena looks up, confused by her lady's apology and asking why she is sorry. With a wry smile, she reminds her that she was told not to protect her. With a quiet look, Serena suggests that if Almelia wants to atone, she should heal her hand. A sudden realization strikes Serena as she exclaims that she can just heal it herself. Hearing this, Almelia stares back, her expression one of complete and utter shock. Serena cheerfully explains that in her shock, she had forgotten about her magic strengthening ability. With a horrified expression, Almelia insists that such a thing is completely impossible. While Serena looks annoyed at the doubt, Almelia appears distressed by the very idea. A jolt seems to run through Almelia as she processes the impossible suggestion. Pouting, Serena comments that she could easily fix a simple burn without any trouble. Almelia gravely explains that there is no record of spirit power healing such dire wounds. Letting out a frustrated grunt, Serena finally understands the task is considered impossible. In a moment of panic, she clutches her head, wondering if her past life knowledge can help. A bright spark of an idea, a new possibility, flashes in her mind. She theorizes that strengthening the magic in her genes might allow her to regrow her arm. Almelia is completely baffled by this, admitting she has never heard the word genes before. Serena cheekily wonders if remembering such a complex term makes her a genius. Her eyes narrow with intense focus as she prepares to attempt the impossible feat. She begins to channel her magic, focusing her power on a deep cellular level. An image of a DNA double helix materializes as she successfully locks onto her target. Her eye widens, confirming she has found the biological blueprint she was seeking. A low hum fills the air as her bandaged stump begins to glow with magical light. Watching the phenomenon unfold, Almelia whispers that it is truly incredible. She confirms with hopeful eyes that Serena has managed to regrow a small part of her hand. Serena lets out a pained grunt as the delicate process suddenly takes a turn. Almelia's hopeful expression shatters into one of pure, wide-eyed horror. Overwhelmed, Serena cries out that it feels like her hand is being sliced off all over again. Almelia calls out her name in a panic, seeing her maid in absolute agony. With deep concern etched on her face, she asks her maid if she is okay. Serena grimaces, clutching her arm as a sharp, throbbing pain pulses from the injury. The bandaged stump throbs violently, the magical healing attempt having backfired. She grits her teeth, letting out a sharp cry of overwhelming pain. Almelia insists Serena must stop, offering to handle Lord Leonardia herself to secure her future. Despite the agony, Serena weakly insists to her mistress that she is fine. Forcing a smile, she says she wouldn't want Leonardia's pity or the concubine arrangement. Almelia begins to protest her maid's selfless concern, her words trailing off in distress. With deep emotion, she confesses that all she truly wants is for her milady to be happy. Serena beams, telling her dummy of a mistress that she wants her to always be smiling. With a bright, trusting expression, Almelia gives a heartfelt order for Serena to heal and remain her maid. The command overwhelms Serena, her face contorting with powerful, tearful emotion. She winces, overcome by the depth of her lady's trust and affection. Almelia watches her maid's intense emotional reaction with a steady, caring gaze. Her expression softens as she processes the profound and complex bond between them. Serena looks up surprised as Almelia reaches out to her. With a gentle, reassuring smile, Almelia takes her injured maid's hand in her own. A single tear traces a path down Serena's cheek at the tender, supportive gesture. The scene shifts to a grand estate, 10 days after the harrowing incident. Lord Leonardia firmly tells his advisor that he will handle his own mistakes. The sound of the doorbell interrupts their tense and formal conversation. A servant opens the door to reveal the newly arrived guests. Serena greets them with a bright smile, apologizing for keeping them waiting. As Leonardia begins a formal apology, Serena cheerfully waves it off. She pulls down the collar of her uniform, preparing for a grand reveal. With a triumphant wink and peace signs, she shows off her two perfectly whole hands. She proudly announces to the stunned onlookers that she healed the injury all by herself. Beaming, she tells them there is no longer any need to worry about her. Suddenly, the bouquet of flowers is thrown directly into her face. She stumbles back, her cheerful smile replaced by utter and complete confusion. Leonardia's fists clench tightly as she accuses her of making fun of them. He erupts in fury, shouting that playing with people's guilt is going too far. His rant continues, blaming the lower class for not preventing the initial attack. He calls her a wretch, accusing her of seeking personal gain through manipulation. Serena is completely lost, unable to comprehend his intense, misplaced anger. A memory from her past life shows her admiration for Leonardia's game character. In the present, she realizes with dawning horror that she has misunderstood something. With a tearful, pained smile, she begins to stammer a confused apology. A resounding slap echoes as Almelia strikes Leonardia hard across the face. The nobleman stumbles back in shock as Almelia declares, "That is enough." The onlooking servants murmur in disbelief at the sudden act of violence. Almelia's expression is one of cold, righteous, and unwavering fury. She tells Leonardia he hurt Serena despite her concern for Almelia's own future. Pointing a resolute finger, she declares that their engagement is officially over. The servants gasp in utter disbelief at the shocking and scandalous announcement. When warned of the consequences, Almelia states coldly that she does not care. With a final, dismissive goodbye, she turns and walks away from her stunned ex-fiancé. She ascends a grand staircase, leaving the chaos of the room behind her. Serena calls out anxiously from below, trying to stop her mistress. She pleads with Almelia to take back her words, worried about the repercussions. Almelia, sitting on her bed, states she can no longer imagine marrying that man. With her back turned to her maid, she firmly declares that she has no regrets. Serena watches her, her expression filled with concern and uncertainty. Almelia begins to explain the true and complex depth of her feelings. She confesses that it's all her fault, as she gave Serena nothing in return for her sacrifice. The weight of her guilt and sorrow is palpable in her trembling voice. Her pride finally shatters as she breaks down, sobbing and apologizing profusely. Serena moves quickly, pulling her distraught lady into a firm, comforting embrace. The two are locked in a hug, one comforting the other's overwhelming grief. Serena pleads with her lady not to cry, her own eyes wide with emotion. Almelia's muffled sobs continue, admitting she is crying for Serena's sake. A memory begins to form, a profound thought from that emotional moment. Serena's own composure breaks as she confesses that Almelia's tears make her cry too. She makes a silent vow to always be by Almelia's side, no matter what happens. The next morning, the sun rises over the academy building. In her room, Almelia wipes a lingering tear from her eye in the mirror's reflection. She scolds herself, feeling her emotional display was unworthy of a noble. A sharp knock at the door causes her to straighten her posture and compose herself. Serena enters with a bright smile, asking if her lady is awake. Almelia hesitates for a brief moment, her composure still fragile. She confirms that she is awake, a gentle smile returning to her face. She glances towards her wardrobe, her thoughts momentarily elsewhere. Taking a purposeful step forward, she prepares to face the new day. A new chapter begins with Serena pulling a surprised Almelia forward into the future. A title page introduces the story, Gal Maid in Villainess. A voice from off-panel calls out to Serena and Lady Almelia. The two girls, Serena and Almelia, turn their heads in unison, having heard the call. Their friend Estelle appears, her face alight with a warm, welcoming smile. She explains that she heard rumors about some kind of commotion after they left. Estelle elaborates, asking if something serious, like violence against the prince, occurred. Almelia sighs, acknowledging that it's not surprising news of the scandal has spread. Estelle looks at Almelia with a worried expression, sensing her friend's unease. She offers a gentle apology for making them worry with her questions. Her expression suddenly shifts to one of wide-eyed shock and surprise. Almelia questions Estelle's strange look, to which Estelle stammers a denial. Serena mischievously reveals the unbelievable news that Lady Almelia actually apologized. Estelle begins to speak, her curiosity clearly piqued by this revelation. A view of the academy exterior briefly establishes the setting for the conversation. With her hands clasped, Estelle asks if it's true that Almelia really said she was sorry. Her concern then shifts to Serena, asking if her hand is truly okay. Serena glances at her own hand, a flicker of private concern in her eyes. She internally admits her hand feels strange, but decides to hide it from her friends. Estelle watches her closely, a bead of sweat betraying her lingering worry. She gently urges Serena not to push herself and offers to help with anything. Serena playfully suggests that Estelle could help wash her in the bath if her hand hurts. Almelia internally notes how clever Serena is, knowing she'll have to help her now. A close-up of Almelia's hair shows her listening to the exchange. A warm, genuine smile spreads across Almelia's face as she enjoys the banter. Estelle looks slightly flustered, but is clearly happy about the friendly mood. She asks if the previous misunderstanding Serena had was finally resolved. Serena laughs brightly, confirming that she and Almelia have made up. Estelle processes this positive news with a quiet, thoughtful expression. Her face suddenly lights up with an expression of pure, shining ecstasy. She exclaims how perfect things are, never imagining Almelia would break her engagement. Lactasha's dark thoughts reveal her plan to finally get revenge on Almelia. She also vows to make the arrogant lower-class noble, Serena, pay. A nearby maid notes how much Lady Lactasha seems to be enjoying herself. An establishing shot of the academy building sets the scene for the aftermath. Two students spot Lady Almelia and begin whispering amongst themselves. They gossip about her breaking the royal engagement and resorting to violence. One of them cruelly remarks that Almelia was never fit to be royalty. Almelia's eye narrows into a sharp, furious glare at their words. The gossiping girls are jolted with fear, realizing they have been overheard. One of them lets out a nervous, apologetic laugh to diffuse the tension. Almelia stares them down, her expression cold and unforgiving. She takes an involuntary step forward, ready to confront her tormentors. Estelle calmly states that this social ostracism is a natural consequence. Serena calls out to her milady, her face a mask of deep concern. Serena's mind is a storm of self-blame, feeling she has failed her lady. The dark, chaotic background reflects her inner turmoil and helplessness. She laments that the engagement broke off much sooner than in the game's timeline. Almelia turns, calling Serena's name upon seeing her dejected state. She takes full responsibility, telling Serena there is no need to look so sad. Serena can only manage a quiet, hesitant agreement, still looking downcast. Estelle observes that Serena seems down, while Almelia looks on, annoyed. Almelia crosses her arms, standing silently for a moment in deep thought. She tells the others to wait for a moment, her expression now resolute. Almelia turns and walks purposefully back down the long, empty corridor. Serena wonders what is happening, and Estelle confirms she is heading to her room. Later, Lactasha and her companions appear before Serena and Estelle. Lactasha remarks with a smug smile that it's happening all over again. She warns Serena to be careful, as Almelia no longer has any power. Lactasha points dismissively, emphasizing her newfound superiority. She explains that a fallen noble can no longer protect their subordinates. Estelle pushes past Serena, vowing to protect herself and get her revenge. Serena looks on with concern, asking if Estelle is sure she wants to do that. Lactasha sneers, blaming Serena's recklessness for the entire situation. One of Lactasha's friends gloats that this is just the start of Almelia's downfall. Lactasha feigns sympathy for poor Almelia as a pretext for her cruelty. She offers to help Serena if she will publicly bow her head and apologize. Estelle shouts a warning not to fall for the trap, but Lactasha silences her. Serena hesitates, wondering if accepting the humiliation is the right thing to do. Her gaze falls to the floor as she wrestles with her internal conflict. She thinks that this might be her only chance to be useful to her lady. She calls herself a dummy for her indecision in this critical moment. Almelia appears, declaring that nobility means nothing when protecting someone you care about. Serena looks up, her face a mask of blushing shock and immense relief. Lactasha scoffs at Almelia's revealing outfit, calling it shameful for a noble. Almelia coolly states that she, too, has become unfit to be a noble. Lactasha erupts in a fit of rage, screaming that Almelia is finished and powerless. Almelia calmly informs Lactasha that she is the one who doesn't understand. She points out that having already struck royalty, she has no reason to hold back. A cracked sound signifies that a final dangerous restraint has been broken. A terrifying demonic visage appears behind Almelia as she dares Lactatia to act. In that moment, the nobles were reminded of a crucial, terrifying truth. They recalled that they never crossed Almelia, not because of her family's name, but because no one could ever hope to rival her sheer, overwhelming power. Almelia looks down upon the prostrated nobles with a single dismissive Estelle asks if Almelia is wearing the unconventional outfit she had given her. Almelia hesitates, her face turned away in a moment of shyness. She admits she's embarrassed but couldn't bear to see Serena looking so downcast. Serena's mind explodes with adoration, thinking her milady is far too cute. Serena hums a happy tune to herself, feeling inspired by Almelia's honesty. Estelle watches her, wishing she could be more like that as well. She resolves to be more honest about her own true feelings from now on. She turns to Almelia with a serious expression, calling her name to get her attention. She sweetly warns Almelia that she'll send her to hell if she tries to seduce Serena. A dark background emphasizes the deadly seriousness of her friendly warning. A trickle of blood runs from Almelia's mouth in sheer, stunned surprise. She replies that Estelle doesn't need to apologize in such an extreme way. A new chapter begins, its title revealed as A Maid's Devotion. A maid reports to a stern man, confirming that Serena must have truly lost her hand. She admits that she finds it very hard to believe the injury has since healed. The man bluntly refutes her, stating that the doctor's report must be a mistake. An advisor with a scarred face dismisses a report, stating it is mistaken. He prompts a young maid to think carefully about the situation's gravity. He explains their lord's dutiful nature, who takes responsibility regardless of status. With a political struggle over, the country's future outweighs a maid's honor. He gives a firm, quiet order to ensure the town doctor remains silent. He then reveals that Lady Almelia will be exiled to the frontier. However, he worries their lord would be devastated if the truth came out. The maid Meltina understands the grim implications of his unspoken threat. The scene transitions from the shadowy conspiracy to a brighter sunlit room. Estella smiles with pure, unadulterated joy, enjoying a peaceful moment. She gushes about her happiness, while Almelia looks on with a playful wink. Estella expresses her relief that the betrothal dissolution didn't escalate further. Her joyful expression instantly freezes upon seeing a letter from Almelia's family. Almelia lists the punishments: no family support and a drastically reduced allowance. She notes that for her formidable mother, this is considered a light sentence. Serena confirms that mother refers to the powerful head of the family. Almelia acknowledges she could have been disinherited for dishonoring her family. She reassures Serena that she has been negotiating to prevent her dismissal. Taking a serene sip of tea, she tells them to get ready for class. Serena looks on, her expression filled with quiet worry for her mistress. The setting shifts to a classroom at the Grand Academy. In the Chamberlain class, the day's assignment is to repair damaged clothing. Serena reflects that she can no longer just depend on Almelia's kindness. She resolves with a smile that she must do her best to contribute. Her face is alight with a newfound quiet sense of purpose. She wonders what specific actions she can take to be useful. The instructor announces that time is up for the in-class assignment. For now, her only desire is to finish and return to Almelia's side. With a satisfied smile, she notes she is almost done with her work. Just as she finishes, a voice calls out, telling her to wait. Serena looks up, recognizing the speaker as Lord Leonardia's personal maid. The maid Meltina recalls her orders to watch them for any trouble. She quickly covers, suggesting there is no reason for them to be hostile. Serena is taken aback by the sudden and unexpected address. She is overcome with emotion, explaining that someone has finally spoken to her. Meltina is visibly confused by this incredibly intense reaction. Serena confesses she had resigned herself to being completely ostracized at school. Meltina acknowledges such things happen but asks if this doesn't feel strange. Serena innocently asks why their conversation would be strange at all. Meltina concedes Serena has done nothing wrong, but her lord thinks otherwise. Serena points out that Meltina had bowed to her, a lower-class noble. This rare courtesy led her to believe Meltina must be a good person. Meltina listens to this earnest assessment with a neutral, unreadable expression. She clarifies her politeness was only because Serena serves the great Lady Almelia. She admits her goal was to earn Serena's trust for political convenience. A pang of guilt makes her think it's wrong to exploit someone's honesty. She suggests they move elsewhere to talk, noting they are the same age. Outside, Meltina Karnas introduces herself, and Serena Flamel asks to be called informally. Meltina asks to see the sewing assignment from their class. She explains the high standards expected of them in the Chamberlain class. Serena grows worried, realizing their grades affect their masters' reputations. Meltina stresses that quality and precision are more important than speed. She kindly offers to teach Serena how to improve her work right there. They spend time together, working under the clear sky by the academy. Meltina praises Serena's work, but Serena feels she still hasn't done enough. The two maids share a moment of quiet, focused conversation. Meltina reminds herself that she must not get distracted from her mission. Serena looks down, a vulnerable and worried expression on her face. She confesses that she always worries if she is doing enough for others. She knows her mistress must be enduring immense hardship due to recent events. She feels helpless, unsure of how she can possibly repay Almelia's kindness. Meltina listens intently to her heartfelt and vulnerable confession. Serena resolves that her first priority must be to fulfill her duties. Meltina advises her to improve her skills since she is Almelia's only maid. Meltina suddenly gasps, a look of shocked realization on her face. She realizes she was talking down to Serena, which must feel unpleasant. At the same moment, a jolt of understanding electrifies Serena. She exclaims that she now sees there are definitely things she can do. Meltina is taken aback by this sudden and explosive burst of energy. She points out Almelia's poor reputation in Fernial as a problem. She recalls that Serena has no friends because she is Almelia's maid. She suggests making friends with foreign students could create a support network. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Serena thanks her and calls her Master Mel. Meltina quickly pulls back, warning her not to get too close. She explains their association could cause political trouble, a complicated situation. Meltina lets out a sigh, finding the ordeal difficult and draining. She laments that Serena's utter lack of a sense of danger complicates things. Serena suddenly remembers something she wanted to ask about the incident. Meltina's face darkens as she mentions rumors of the royal family silencing them. Serena shares Almelia's theory that the royals are being cautious. Meltina asks if Serena would try to publicize the truth. Serena quietly says she would not attempt such a thing. She declares she would have cut off her own hand to prove her innocence. She adds with a laugh that her lady strictly forbade such an act. Serena resolves to do her absolute best for her kind lady. A soft, understanding smile appears on Meltina's face. She quietly acknowledges Serena's unwavering devotion. Serena waves a cheerful goodbye, thanking her for all her help. Meltina watches her go, her expression thoughtful and conflicted. She sighs, realizing a swift punishment could easily silence them. Her duty remains to protect her lord from any harm or guilt. She lets out another weary sigh, the weight of her mission heavy. The calculating mindset of a noble feels exhausting after being around a wild girl. She reflects on Serena's raw honesty, finding it hard to believe she's a noble. She now understands why Almelia holds Serena so dear. Later, Serena excitedly tells a skeptical Almelia about her new friend. The scene shows Serena walking alone down a long academy path. She sighs, admitting making friends with foreign students is difficult. She rallies her spirits, remembering Meltina's advice to keep trying her best. Looking up, she spots a new figure in the distance. A young man with longish brown hair is seen outdoors, his face partially obscured. Inside, Lady Almelia sits with her head in her hand, the very picture of someone sulking. Estelle looks on with a slightly nervous but gentle expression. At a table, Estelle observes that Lady Almelia seems to be in a quiet mood. With a knowing smile, she points out her bad mood and asks where Serena is. Almelia wonders aloud what on earth her maid, Serena, could possibly be doing. She concedes that Serena is likely trying to make acquaintances for her sake. However, a sense of doubt hangs in the air as she considers their situation. Almelia pessimistically explains that no noble would associate with social pariahs like them. Serena bursts in, announcing her return and that she brought a new friend. She dramatically throws the door open, presenting Prince Edward of Regania with a flourish. Both Almelia and Estelle are frozen in a state of utter shock and disbelief. A flustered Almelia attempts a formal greeting, introducing herself as Almelia Celis Bright. Prince Edward dismisses her formality, casually announcing he will see himself in. Almelia hesitantly asks how he and Serena came to meet each other. The prince recounts how Serena happily started chatting with him the moment she saw him. Serena sheepishly adds that she took his permission to be informal, quite literally. Almelia covers her face in a groan of second-hand embarrassment over her maid's forwardness. A cup of tea sits on the table, marking a pause in the conversation. Almelia sternly asks if the prince came to complain about her fool of a maid. He scoffs, explaining he came because of the uproar and rumors about her. After talking to Serena, he realized she is completely honest, suggesting a misunderstanding. With a confident smile, he offers to lend Almelia his political backing. Serena and another girl gasp in surprise at the unexpected offer of support. He explains that with his connection, even the adults would have to stay quiet. Serena, overjoyed, turns to her mistress, asking if this isn't a great opportunity. Almelia remains suspicious, asking what he wishes for in return for his help. She points out the gravity of him involving himself in their country's domestic quarrels. A flicker of anxiety crosses her face as she silently worries he wants Serena. The prince commends her for being sharp before stating what it is he wants. Almelia's eye widens in shock as she hears his stunning demand. Serena is equally flabbergasted, her mouth hanging open in utter disbelief. Estelle is also left speechless by the completely unexpected proposal. Prince Edward explains that martial prowess is highly valued in his country, Regania. He praises Almelia's strength, declaring her the perfect match for him. He adds that in Regania, they believe women should be strong-willed. Almelia's mind races, recalling information about him from the game she knows. This new development is a drastic and confusing deviation from the expected plot. The prince acknowledges that this turn of events is completely unforeseen. Almelia is left speechless, struggling to process the situation. With a slight huff, Prince Edward turns to leave for now. He acknowledges that his proposal must have been quite sudden for her. He promises to return soon for her formal reply before bidding them farewell. After he leaves, Almelia remarks on the difficult conundrum she now faces. Serena immediately begins to apologize profusely, blaming herself for the situation. Almelia clarifies that what the prince said is not Serena's fault. She pragmatically admits that his proposal is the best they could hope for. Overwhelmed, Almelia asks to be left alone for a while to think. Serena looks on with concern as her mistress walks away. Estelle watches her go, her expression filled with worry. On a balcony, Almelia lets out a long, heavy sigh. Estelle quietly approaches her mistress, who is leaning against the railing. With a gentle smile, Estelle calls out her name, breaking the silence. Almelia reminds her she asked to be alone, though she apologizes for it. She rests her hands on the railing, her posture revealing her inner turmoil. She muses that Serena must be overjoyed by this turn of events. She reasons that marrying the prince would secure her precarious position. Estelle asks if she is truly not going to turn him down. Almelia explains that marriage is an obligation for nobles, and her mother will arrange one. Her primary concern is how a different husband might treat her dear maid, Serena. She clenches her fist, believing that refusing would just make her a fool. Estelle stands silently, listening to her friend's difficult decision. She gently calls out to Lady Almelia, drawing her attention. Almelia turns to face her, her expression still troubled and conflicted. On the balcony, a silver-haired boy shares news of a prestigious offer from Sir Matthias. Serena listens intently, acknowledging his words with a simple, "I see." Estelle apologizes for not mentioning it sooner, fearing Serena's reaction. She admits that from a practical standpoint, it's an undeniably good deal. Serena dismisses the need for concern, focusing on Almelia's own burdens. Estelle reveals with a small smile that she has already turned the offer down. With a bright, determined expression, she shares her true wish to protect her hometown. She credits meeting Serena and Almelia for giving her the hope to achieve her dream. Serena watches her, her expression a complex mixture of stoicism and concern. Estelle looks at Almelia and asks if they shouldn't be more honest with their feelings. She expresses her belief that together, they can overcome the stubbornness of nobility. The weight of this earnest plea settles upon Serena, her expression intense. In her room, Serena walks past her bed, lost in thought. The memory of Prince Edward's proposal, "I want you, Almelia," echoes in her mind. She murmurs to herself about the prospect of Almelia's marriage, feeling uneasy. With a cry of frustration, she throws herself backward onto her bed. She lies there, staring into space, her emotions in a confusing tangle. Propping herself up, she questions why she feels so down about this good news. Later, she tentatively asks her mistress what she plans to do about the prince. They walk together down a school corridor, the question hanging between them. Almelia takes a deliberate step, pausing in their walk to consider her answer. With a weary sigh, she replies with a resigned, "What indeed?" She muses that while accepting has its upsides, she might still be able to refuse. The maid is caught completely off guard, blushing as she stammers in response. Almelia peeks around a corner, noticing a commotion down the hall. A crowd of students has gathered, their presence creating a racket. Estelle appears, her face a mask of fury, and calls out Almelia's name. She strides towards her, ignoring the other students in the hall. With barely contained rage, she tells her friend not to play dumb. She directly accuses Almelia of receiving a marriage proposal from Prince Edward. She reveals she knows because the prince already went to pay respects to Lenardia. A flustered Almelia weakly denies it, insisting he didn't propose. Prince Edward himself arrives with his entourage, declaring their timing to be perfect. He asks Almelia if she didn't hear him say he'd come back better prepared. He coolly adds that it's not as if she has any other options. He explains that he thought moving things along would help her make up her mind. Prince Edward smirks, condescendingly asking if Almelia has a reason to refuse him. A trapped Almelia stammers, unable to answer, while Serena watches with deep concern. Looking down, Almelia is cornered by the prince's public pressure and her hesitation. An older royal vassal arrives, offering a formal apology for the prince's suddenness. With a hand placed over her heart, the vassal begins to state her official position. She declares the vassals would be delighted to welcome the powerful Almelia home. Prince Edward internally notes that word has spread, trapping Almelia politically. Defeated, Almelia lets out a frustrated huff, her shoulders slumping in resignation. She quietly admits to Serena that she truly has no other choice now. Edward explains that noble marriages ignore personal wishes, and Serena could be harmed. The threat against her maid makes Almelia's expression fill with pained shock. Her face contorts with worry and resignation as the reality of her situation sinks in. Overwhelmed, her mouth opens in a silent scream of despair and helplessness. She internally laments her own self-indulgent thinking and unreciprocated feelings. The prince observes her surrender, his expression smug as she remains silent. The weight of her unspoken feelings hangs heavily in the dark, silent air. Serena looks out over the school grounds, processing the devastating turn of events. She asks Estelle if this marriage is truly for the best for Almelia. Serena tries to convince herself Almelia can find happiness through this arrangement. Estelle looks on with concern, sensing the conflict behind her friend's words. She gently asks Serena if she is truly okay with this outcome. Serena forces a hollow laugh, unconvincingly asking why she wouldn't be okay. She begins to explain her reasoning, but her voice trails off in uncertainty. Estelle bluntly tells her she looks miserable, seeing through the fragile facade. Estelle suggests she tell Almelia her feelings, but Serena dismisses it as too late. Serena admits she can't see how this forced marriage could make Almelia happy. Alone, Serena looks out a window, her thoughts consumed by her lady's fate. She slumps down, wondering aloud what would truly make her lady happy. She realizes avoiding ruin isn't enough. She must find a way to make Almelia smile. Prince Edward muses that this is a happy ending for the villainess. He is certain that by his side, she will one day smile happily. A memory flashes of Almelia's many intense expressions directed only at Serena. Almelia's tearful, anguished face as she says Serena's name is recalled vividly. Serena's internal monologue begins with a firm denial of the current situation. She pleads with an unseen Almelia not to look at anyone else that way. A wave of possessive jealousy washes over her as she hugs her knees. Her hand clenches tightly on her arm, a physical manifestation of her turmoil. Her eyes, once soft, now burn with a sharp and unwavering new resolve. The scene is set on an elegant stone balcony overlooking a lush garden. Prince Edward sips his tea, smugly noting Almelia's obvious displeasure. Almelia sits in stony silence, her posture rigid with unspoken defiance. He warns her that a second annulment would undoubtedly lead to her ruin. Almelia acknowledges that only the identity of her husband has truly changed. Edward dismisses her feelings with a patronizing smile, accepting her resignation. He advises her to give up on any lingering attachments she might have. Almelia glares back, her expression a mask of cold fury and helplessness. Leaning in, he cruelly offers to rescind his proposal if she can convince him. He immediately adds that such a thing will never happen, taunting her. Almelia's eyes widen in shock and fury at his impossible, cruel game. Serena arrives, asking the prince if he was being serious with his words. Both Edward and Almelia turn, surprised by her sudden, bold interruption. Serena asks if she might be allowed to try and change his mind. Edward scoffs, doubting a maid could sway him, but agreeing to his word. Almelia listens, confused and worried by her maid's unexpected line of reasoning. A wide, confident grin spreads across Serena's face as she forms a plan. She reminds him of the custom that the strong must marry the strong. Serena draws a sword, challenging him to a duel for Almelia's freedom. A horrified Almelia cries out for them to stop this foolishness at once. Prince Edward sharply commands her to hold her tongue and stay silent. He explains the life or death stakes of the duel for honor they've agreed to. Serena looks on, her gaze steady as she confirms she knows the risks. Almelia's expression is filled with deep worry for her loyal, reckless maid. Before the duel, Serena offers a quiet apology to her distressed lady. Serena's hand clenches into a tight fist, showing her unwavering determination. She explains that she would regret doing nothing for the rest of her life. On the sidelines, Estelle worries after hearing that Serena got into trouble. A nearby maid anxiously wonders if Serena can possibly win the duel. A man explains the prince is far more powerful than any previous opponent. He grimly states that if the prince is serious, it will be a death sentence. Almelia's hand tightens on the railing, her fear for Serena palpable. She begins to blame herself for the dangerous situation her maid is in. She believes Serena is only acting this way because she saw her unhappiness. A man beside her suggests there is likely more to Serena's motivations. In the arena, Serena asks to speak with the prince before they begin. She stands ready to make her case before her powerful, royal opponent. Edward looks bored, asking why she is bothering with such a futile endeavor. A spectator notes that Almelia seems reluctant to marry, an unacceptable noble trait. Edward asks if she'd rather marry someone inferior, prompting Serena's disdain. Serena quietly concedes that he may have a point about their world's rules. She acknowledges that everyone takes the rigid social hierarchy for granted. Gripping her sword, she explains that this is precisely why she must fight. She declares that her victory would be proof that things can be different. Intrigued, Edward smirks and accepts her challenge, if she can beat him. An official signals for the duel to begin, and Edward's expression hardens. The prince attacks with a ferocious swing, his power shocking the onlookers. A narrative box explains his great sword fighting style relies on wide, sweeping arcs. An observer recalls that Almelia fought him similarly in the game. Serena dodges and overpowers him with a surprising point-blank fist attack. Her hand crumbles slightly from the immense force of her own blow. The spectators are completely stunned by the unexpected and powerful counterattack. Estelle is left speechless, her mouth agape in utter shock and disbelief. A maid exclaims it was incredible, hoping Serena might actually be able to win. Almelia agrees, a flicker of hope in her eyes at the display. A man analyzes that Serena used her best attack, exploiting Edward's lowered guard. However, the prince stands completely unscathed, his great sword planted in the ground. He explains his magic provides an equally overwhelming defensive barrier. Serena looks on, realizing the true extent of the power gap between them. Edward's expression darkens as he challenges her to land 10 more such blows. Serena dodges a ferocious swing, the wind from the blade whipping past her. She leaps back desperately, the sheer force of his attack now fully unleashed. In the heat of the duel, Serena knows a direct hit would be fatal. Believing she has an opening, she charges forward with her sword held high. Her opponent, Prince Edward, scoffs, questioning if she thinks the same trick will work twice. Sidestepping her attack, he throws a powerful punch aimed downwards. She slides low to the ground, narrowly evading the powerful blow. Despite the near miss, she insists that she is not done fighting. Looking up with a resilient smile, she declares the battle is not over yet. From the stands, the crowd of spectators watches the intense duel. Edward expresses his surprise at her tenacity and skill with magic. A man in the crowd realizes the rumors of her regrown hand must be true. He also senses something was distinctly off when the punch landed on her left arm. With a cruel smirk, Edward declares that the fight is about to end. He strikes the ground with immense force, shattering the stone floor around her. Debris flies everywhere from the powerful, ground-shaking impact. A close-up on Serena's eyes shows her shock as he presses his attack. She grits her teeth, barely managing to block his powerful kick with her sword. The impact sends a shock wave of force and debris across the arena. In the stands, Almelia and Estelle watch with horrified expressions. The relentless assault takes its toll, and she collapses among the rubble. Panting heavily, she struggles to catch her breath, completely exhausted. Edward stands over her, noting that her movements have become weak. He lectures her that with her meager strength, she cannot win or change the world. Her face, bruised and dirty, shows the depth of her despair. Her body aches, and she feels her magic power is almost completely gone. She berates herself for lashing out without considering Almelia's feelings. With a final surge of will, she clenches her fist, refusing to give up. Edward, perplexed by her refusal to stay down, asks why she is so determined. He points out that if Almelia marries him, Serena's own life would improve. She responds to his practical argument with a defiant scoff. From her place in the stands, she reflects on feeling like an alien in this world. She initially believed her role was to simply watch over things from a distance. But then a profound realization changed everything for her. Seeing Almelia's tears, she understood how much the people here cherished her. She confesses that she can no longer imagine a world without her. With a radiant smile, she declares her simple reason. She loves Almelia. The heartfelt confession hangs heavy in the air, stunning everyone. Edward is shocked, questioning if love can truly work in the world of nobility. Serena's smile widens as she says that's why she must win, to prove it can. He smirks, accepting her challenge and telling her she can try. From her seat, Almelia watches, knowing Serena has no hope of victory. Her hand clenches tightly in a knot of fear and helplessness. She knows she should intervene and tells Serena to stop the hopeless fight. However, a fragile flicker of hope begins to bloom in her heart. She makes a silent, desperate plea for a miracle just this once. Her quiet wish builds into a powerful, emotional plea. Her voice erupts, shouting for Serena to win and letting her believe too. Down on the battlefield, Serena hears her voice, the word win echoing. Almelia, blushing and tearful, makes a heartfelt plea for Serena to make her hers. Serena is stunned into silence by the raw, emotional confession. Almelia realizes with embarrassment that she was heard across the arena. A massive, joyful, tear-filled smile spreads across Serena's face. Reborn with new strength, she slams her fist down and happily accepts. She reminds her opponent that she has said it before. The entire arena watches as she prepares for her final move. She declares with absolute conviction that she will not yield and is now invincible. She clenches her fist, finally understanding what felt off about her left hand. Now, it is simply a matter of executing her final, desperate plan. With a determined grin, she prepares to charge forward. She launches herself at her opponent in a blindingly fast rush. Edward stands ready, anticipating her sword attack. Her blade connects with his guard in a tremendous, ground-shaking impact. As she rushes past him, he seizes the opportunity. He grabs her arm, believing the fight is over. But she reveals she only took the hit so she could catch him. A triumphant, blood-streaked grin spreads across her face as she says she's got him. Her left hand darts out, grabbing his tie as a surge of magic erupts. Edward cries out as he feels his magic strengthening, suddenly jolt and dissipate. She explains that she borrowed Almelia's magic to regrow her hand. The borrowed power created an instability in her left hand. This weakness is now her trump card to erase his magic strengthening. She unleashes a final devastating punch that connects squarely with his face. In the stands, Almelia tearfully admits she is not giving up on her. She slumps forward, completely overcome with relief at the victory. The crowd erupts in a deafening roar, celebrating the impossible outcome. A vassal of Prince Edward storms into the arena. He accuses the victorious Serena of cheating, insisting the prince couldn't lose. Edward himself intervenes, calmly stating that he did in fact lose. He gracefully admits defeat and relinquishes Almelia to Serena as promised. 3 days later, Edward muses about fighting Almelia next for Serena's affection. The scene shifts to a quieter moment after the duel. Estelle calls out to Serena with concern. Almelia rushes to Serena, pulling her into a tight, relieved embrace. Estelle gently pats her back, also expressing her thanks and relief. 2 other students passing by politely offer to move out of their way. Almelia, blushing, hesitantly calls out Serena's name. She moves behind Serena, hugging her and blindfolding her with her hair ribbon. Serena is caught completely off guard by the sudden, intimate gesture. Almelia begins to confess her deepest fears, admitting she was truly scared. She worried she was ruining Serena's happiness and would be hated for her feelings. She explains her resolve to give up on her feelings if she had lost. But her voice trails off, implying the victory changed everything. Serena, grinning playfully, asks if it's finally okay to make her milady hers. The bold acceptance sends Almelia into a state of utter, flustered panic. She frantically backtracks, saying she's not quite ready for that step yet. She explains that for now, their relationship will have to be put on hold. She expresses her worries about political fallout and Serena's new fame. Her posture shows her internal conflict and hesitation. With a shy but earnest gaze, she asks Serena to keep calling her by her name. Serena listens with a gentle, understanding smile to her request. Almelia asks her to wait just a little while until she is truly ready for them. Serena joyfully agrees to Almelia's request, accepting their future together with a bright smile.